Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of our non-profit organization, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, and our affiliated political committee, the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp. We have a great show for you tonight. Madeline Martinez of Oregon Normal is here, as is Tim Pate and John Cornett. They'll be providing musical accompaniment. We have some hemp news. We have some new garden footage from the THCF Medical Gardens we'll be showing you a little bit later. But let's bring on the infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Tonight's first hemp news story is from Michigan. The Michigan Medical Marijuana Initiative has been certified for this November ballot out of Lansing, Michigan. State election officials this week approved a measure for the November 2008 electoral ballot that seeks to legalize the possession and use of cannabis for qualified patients. Sponsored by the Michigan Coalition for Compassionate Care, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act would amend the state law to allow authorized patients to use cannabis therapeutically under a doctor's supervision. Backers of the plan gathered over 300,000 signatures from Michigan voters to place the measure on the upcoming ballot. Under Michigan law, state lawmakers may preemptively enact the measure, but are unlikely to do so. Since 2004, 5 Michigan cities, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Ferndale, Flint, and Traverse City, have each enacted municipal initiatives endorsing the medical use of marijuana. If enacted by the voters, Michigan will become the 13th state since 1996 to authorize the legal use of medical cannabis, and the 9th state to do so by voter initiative. For more information, you can go to the Michigan Coalition for Compassionate Care website at http://stoparrestingpatients.org. That's stoparrestingpatients.org. New study from New Zealand says that cannabis is not associated with an increased risk of head or neck cancer. Out of Wellington, New Zealand, smoking cannabis, even long-term, is not associated with an increased risk of developing cancers of the head or neck, according to the results of a case-controlled population-based study published in the March issue of the journal Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery. Investigators at the Medical Research Institute in Wellington assessed the relative risk of head and neck cancer associated with marijuana smoking in 75 cases, 16 of which reported having used cannabis, and 319 controls. The researchers reported that marijuana use, including chronic use of the drug, was not associated with any increased cancer risk compared to non-using controls. The authors concluded, quote, "This population-based study did not find a statistically significant increase in the risk of head and neck cancers in adults under age 55 from cannabis. Even the risk associated with the highest tertile of cannabis use, defined as 1 joint a day for more than 8 years, was not statistically significant after adjustment for confounding variables, including tobacco smoking, alcohol consumption, and level of income," end quote. By contrast, investigators reported that heavy alcohol use was associated with a nearly 6-fold increased cancer risk compared to controls. In February, a parallel study published by the same investigative team reported that subjects who had ever used cannabis experienced, on average, no statistically increased risk of lung cancer compared to non-users. A prior case-control study sponsored by the United States National Institute on Drug Abuse of 164 oral cancer patients and 526 controls determined, quote, "The balance of evidence does not favor the idea that marijuana is commonly used in the community is a causal factor for head, neck, or lung cancers in adults," end quote. More recently, a 2004 clinical trial performed by investigators at Seattle's Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center reported no association between marijuana use and the incidence of oral carcinoma, quote, regardless of how long, how much, or how often a person has used marijuana, end quote. Most recently, a UCLA study of more than 2,200 subjects, 1,212 cases, and 1,040 controls reported that marijuana smoking was not positively associated with cancers of the lung or upper aerodigestive tract, even among individuals who reported smoking more than 22,000 joints during their lifetime. Normal Deputy Director Paul Amento said that Wellington's team findings add to the growing body of evidence indicating that smoking cannabis poses a surprisingly low cancer risk compared to the use of tobacco or alcohol. Armento said, quote, while studies purporting to uncover alleged harms due to cannabis use receive wide dissemination by the mainstream press, research that fails to find such harms often gets ignored. It will be telling to see if this latest study is the exception or the rule. The full text of the study, Cannabis Use in Cancer of the Head and Neck, case-controlled study appears in Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery. Jamaica Parliament's once again considering liberalizing the ganja laws there. From Kingston, Jamaica, a government commission is expected to once again recommend that Parliament remove criminal penalties outlawing the possession of small amounts of cannabis, according to an Associated Press report published this week. The report warns that any liberalization of Jamaica's cannabis policies would likely yield harsh criticism from the United States and could jeopardize the island's anti-drug certification. In 2001, the Jamaican National Commission on Ganja recommended that Parliament decriminalize the private personal use of cannabis for adults, determining that the, quote, criminalization of thousands of people for simple possession for consumption of cannabis does more harm to the society than could be done by the use of ganja itself, end quote. In 2003, Parliament held a series of legislative hearings debating the Commission's recommendations, but they failed to enact them. That is the end of our hemp news segment tonight, and we'll jump over to Tim Pate and John Cornett. How are you folks doing this evening?
I am doing well. John, how are you doing?
I'm here.
Good. Welcome back.
Yeah, he's back from China. Yeah, he was over in China for 32 days, and
wow.
Yeah, he was actually while he was over there, he was helping create a tour for us this year, and we found out just this last week that we have received permission from the vice chairman of the Ministry of Culture in China that our tour has been approved. So we're going to get to go tour China at some point here in the near future. Very excited about that. Yeah, play some music.
All right.
So I think maybe we might as well play some music right now, too. Why not?
Sounds good to me.
All right, we'll do it. You ready? All right.
Welcome, Madeline Martinez. How are you doing this week, Madeline?
Oh, I'm doing just great, Paul.
Good.
How are you doing?
Very well.
Glad to be here. Glad to see. Yes.
I think this is the first time you've been on since you were named to the National Board for NORML now.
Yes, I actually was elected to the board of National NORML recently. Yay! I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you.
That's great.
Well, it's a real honor to represent Oregon. You know, I think it's a big step in the right direction to getting, I'm over here, huh?
I think so.
Okay. to getting normal recognized, because we're doing a lot of things here. It's really happening in Oregon. When we had Keith Stroff out recently, we were on your show. That's the last time I was
great.
on. Yes, Keith was saying it's just happening. You guys live in paradise. It's wonderful.
Compared to a lot of places, like Washington, D.C.
Exactly where he's from. Right.
Yeah. Well, if you are out there and you're watching this tonight on the 7th of March, 2008, then you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your calls right up to the top of the hour. I guess we have a caller already. Hello, caller. You're on our show.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I was a card holder for years. Or back when you were in the old house and stuff, I came and saw you and Doc Levesque. And back then,
Before we even had an office there.
Yeah, I was in your old house there.
Yeah.
And stuff where you had the office. Yeah. And back then, I was waiting for my Social Security disability. And that takes quite a span of time, as you probably
It does.
heard.
I've known people wait many years.
Right. So I went through kind of a poverty period there, and until I finally got it. So now I need to get back in the system and get my card back again. And I know that you've said in past shows and something about, and I didn't pay attention, of course, but something about the fees are a little different for people on like Social Security disability.
Yeah, we have a sliding scale for low-income people. We try to make certain that no one gets turned down because of lack of money.
Okay, so I just bring in the normal doctor, same scenario like before. And,
yeah, it's pretty much the same process. We have to have documentation. If you've been in before, we didn't throw any of that away. We have a huge record room, so we probably still have your old records, but you probably need some new ones if it's been a few years.
Okay.
Bring those records in, and I think we're the only folks around that are seeing patients 5 or even sometimes 6 days a week now.
Okay. I appreciate it, and you guys keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Yes, it's true, Paul. You guys do a great job at the clinic. We refer only to your clinic,
Appreciate
exclusively because we believe in what you're doing and because you are so thoughtful about and so compassionate with patients who are struggling. So many of our constituents, our patients, are all low income, they're disabled, which means you're on a fixed income.
Yeah, we give about half of our patients a discount.
Wonderful.
And in some cases, we see several free patients every week because they can't afford anything at all. What I don't want to see is someone who definitely needs medical marijuana and qualifies for it who can't obtain it just because of the money. Of course, once they start growing it, that's another expense. But
exactly, and it's such a struggle out there being a patient anyway. I have been getting reports from patients saying that there are so many doctors that are turning them away because if they test for marijuana, even if they have a card, now they're stopping their pain medicine.
Yeah.
Many times telling them, just being so cruel. I think it's criminal.
And they're taking them off the liver transplant list entirely and transplant lists for other organs just because they test positive for medical marijuana, even with a permit, even though they're legal.
I mean, it's just so brutal what our federal government will do, and it's time for people to get up and do something about it. I get so upset when I hear these stories all the time, getting those phone calls, getting emails from people that are struggling, and it's up to us. We must let the federal government know that we must reschedule marijuana. We have to do it. We can't do it fast enough.
I agree. The Democrats said they had the votes to pass it during this legislative session in the federal Congress under Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, but they don't want to bring it up because they're afraid it'll make them look soft on crime in the presidential election. They claim that if they win the presidential election, then they'll bring it up next year. So we'll see if they're honest.
I have to keep that hope alive because without hope, we're nothing, and we've struggled for so long already.
That's true. I guess we have another caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Hello, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey.
And lady.
Hello.
Madam Madeline, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, speaking of what you were just talking about rescheduling, there's a petition going around by Americans for Safe Access about
ASA.
Supporting medical marijuana research.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you guys aware of that? And
oh, yeah. We talked about it, I think, on the show just last week.
Can you let people know where they can get a copy of it?
I know they can pull it up online. I think we have them available in our office at 18th and Southeast Ankeny.
Great. they only have 9 spots for signatures, so if you sign your own name on it, and then all you got to do is get 8 more signatures. Can you talk to 8 more people or 10 more people?
Well, certainly I can.
Each one of us took one of these and did that. The 8 more people that we could educate about what marijuana truly is. It's nothing more than an organic plant.
Right.
So let's get it rescheduled indeed. And I was thinking, can you put in a pitch for ASA's petitions and getting them signed? They have until, I think, the end of April. They need 30,000 signatures in Oregon.
Sure, and it's really important for all of us to get together and support anything that will reschedule marijuana at this point. We must get it rescheduled because this madness cannot go on any longer. We have to stop it now.
Yeah, I agree.
Indeed.
Thank you for mentioning that. Appreciate it.
I wanted to mention real quickly that something I haven't heard on the marijuana news, Paul, that I thought was interesting is a statistical study found that passing state laws to legalize the medical use of cannabis does not increase the drug's recreational use. Have you seen that story?
Use by youngsters, it goes down as medical use goes up.
Yes. And one of the states that they studied to come up with those numbers happened to be Oregon. Actually, it was California, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington.
Right.
That's right.
The study confirmed what the U.S. GAO, General Accounting Office, said, which was they had found that legalizing medical cannabis has not led to increased recreational use. That's from the government himself.
Yeah.
So why can't we get the DEA to prove someone else growing marijuana for medical marijuana research? That's what this petition's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully that will happen.
Yeah.
We're working at it.
Get out there and get it done, everybody. Go to ACE's website. What is it?
Americans for Safe Access.
Yeah, AmericansForSafeAccess.org.
Yes, that's it.
It's that simple. Just go there, download it, get it out there, print it, share it with your friends, and get it done. That's how we passed the OMA.
Exactly.
Measure 67, we were out there hustling for signatures. People said they want to smoke. I said, well, what about the people that are sick? Let's change it. And now we have to change it at the federal level. Thanks
for that. It's a bigger task, but we're working at it.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good leverage to use there.
Paul?
Yeah.
Is there any way you could put a link to ASA on the hemp.org page?
Yeah, I think we can do that. We'll have to talk to our webmaster on it. It's a good point.
Yeah. There you go. There's a good one.
All right. Well, thanks for your call.
We have a link to ACE on our website, on our links page.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. But we don't. I noticed we don't have one on hemp.org. So that's
hemp.org is like a portal to our websites and various things. But we'll see what we can do to get it in there. I know we have some. I'll have to look at the links.
I know there's links for normal.
A lot of
and
work.
several others.
Mm-hmm. You should really come out to the Million Marijuana March, which is one of the reasons that I'm on here tonight. I really wanted to let people know that it's going to be happening on Saturday, May the 3rd, and it's going to be an all-day event. We're going to load in our vendors at 8 a.m., and we're going to go till 5, and it's going to just be a fun event. We've got Los Marihuanos coming into town, thanks to Paul, who's one of our sponsors. We've got our flyers coming out probably next week. And we're pretty excited about it, getting the word out there, because we're going to be kicking off the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act at our event, getting some brochures out to everybody. We can't actually start collecting signatures until July the 7th of this year.
Exactly.
Pretty exciting. So we hope you'll all come out there and help us get that on the ballot.
Hey, thanks, Madeline, for saying that, because that reminds me about the Portland PDX Rally for Peace, the demonstration on March 15th. It sure would be nice if we could get out there and talk to those people, because I think we have more than just one or two things in common.
Oh, for sure.
I agree.
Exactly.
So you guys have a nice evening.
You too. Thanks for calling.
Talk at you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
So not only do you have the Million Marijuana March that's coming up here on May the 3rd at Pioneer Courthouse Square. There's another plug. But you have the twice-a-month meetings for patients now. taking place at Mount Tabor Theater.
Yeah.
So you got one tomorrow?
Yes, we do.
And so those on the second Saturday are really well attended, I know.
They are really well attended.
There's what? How many people do you think show
We
up
think
there?
probably about 250 with our volunteers and everyone gets in there. They tell us there's room for more, but I just don't know where.
Yeah.
You know, if we could find a place to put another chair,
We'd have
that
to
would
open
be
up
great.
one of those back rooms or something.
Yeah, but no, it's really turned out to work out well, and it's a cardholder meeting. You have to have an OMMP card to get in the door, or you have to have paperwork date stamped by DHS OMMP.
Right, showing that you have a medical marijuana card here in the state of
and
Oregon.
the receipt. You have to bring a receipt. If you paid and you just have the paperwork, we want to see a paid receipt with that paperwork, and then you have to have a state ID or driver's license, because if you don't, how can we tell who you are? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's got to match up, and we're really...
And you have to be a member as well.
You have to be a member.
And you have to sign a release each time you go in
each
there.
and every time. And you get this, one of our lovely volunteers will stamp your hand, and it's a really fun event. But we do practice a lot of security.
Yeah.
And we have to, because we've got a lot of stigma attached to our particular issue, let's say.
But you started doing them as well on the fourth Saturday, and they're not quite as crowded, I think.
Right. Well, the fourth Saturday is OMMP 101. What we're trying to teach patients is how to be self-sufficient, how to be able to start your own cuttings, how to be able to take them and successfully harvest, the medicine that you all need. Because depending on a caregiver, we all know what a struggle that is.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, and some people really can't do it because they live in assisted housing or they're in a wheelchair and they're limited physically, so they have to have a caregiver or a grower. But if you can grow your own medicine, you're so much better off. I mean, we all know those horrible stories we hear of the predatory practices of many caregivers, growers, and some of them are
friends
wonderful.
in some cases.
Yes, some of them are really wonderful people. I got to tell you, the people that donate to us, and there's a lot of good people out there. But then there are those few that will prey on the weakest, and they do.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, just this week, we for our first time, had our clinics running all simultaneously in 4 states. That was a step forward, where we had patients being seen in Riverside, California, Denver, Seattle, and Portland.
Wow.
And last week we were in Hawaii. Helped another 100 patients there get their medical permit. So
yeah, I was
been busy traveling.
I'm associated with the largest medical marijuana clinic in the nation, because that's what you are.
That's what we've managed to do.
You really have, I'll tell you. You have been blessed, but you've helped so many people. I mean, come on.
It's very rewarding in terms of, them being so grateful in terms, once they're done, people are incredibly grateful. They feel free. Everyone's nervous when they first do it, too. I was very nervous when I first went into it.
I remember I was, too. I was very, very nervous.
We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi. I'd like to know how come there isn't any co-ops where a person can buy medical marijuana instead of growing it. Myself, like cancer, and I know of another couple other people. Hell, they won't be alive long enough to see the first crop grow.
Sure. That's one of the weaknesses of our current law. When it was drafted, the people who drafted it put a clause in there that says no sales of marijuana is allowed under this law. I think it's the only medical marijuana law out there that has that clause in it.
Why was that? Wasn't that under consideration when the initiative was filed?
Well, it was under consideration to be able to get it on the ballot.
They wanted to be certain that they would pass the initiative. There was some question whether they would or not. And they thought putting that clause in there would give it a stronger probability of passage. And so if you want to follow this law and abide by it, then you've got to abide by all of it, not just the parts of it you like. And one of them is no sales are allowed. Now, there are co-ops of caregivers and growers who get together, but there aren't any open dispensaries in Oregon. There's some in Washington. There are a lot in California. Looking at the model in California, I can tell you, I know I and Madeline are both pretty disgusted with the turn of events in some of the dispensaries down there, selling cannabis way above the black market rates. Instead of the $300 an ounce black market rate, you'll see it go for $500 an ounce in the dispensaries.
But as you mentioned earlier, too, that you also had problems with some of the providers were taking advantage of some
exactly. At first, we tried to link caregivers, people who wanted to.
But you do see my point, though, that there are people who are in That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I get 2 ounces a month of high-quality pot.
And that's good for you. It works out well then.
We lost him. Oh, so sorry. Well, you know, it's not working out for everybody, though, and that's the problem.
That's true.
That's one of the things that we hope to teach people to be self-sufficient. You know, if you have 4 people in a grow-op, then you stay underneath that federal radar of 100 plants because you can only have 96.
That's right.
And then if you do that and you bring in, say, one person can offer to pay for the PGE bill, the other person can offer a little bit towards the water, someone else can pick up and do the physical labor while another person buys the soil. And that's how you have to make it work. You have to bring all of your abilities, all of your strengths together with 4 people, and then you can do this. You can actually grow and be self-sufficient and actually help other people.
That's right.
Because you can, you know, usually get, I mean, and I'm being nice, 4 to 6 ounces off of a plant.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
I've done considerably better than that.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen 5 pounds
we've
or more
gotten
on some.
pounds off of a plant, but the point is
Sure.
if you can just get that little bit, you can share it amongst yourselves.
That's
And
right.
the cycle of every 2 weeks pulling something out, you know, or putting something in to keep yourself sustained.
Yeah. The way I did it, and you've given me the idea of giving the patients a whole 24 ounces at a time. So we grew outdoors. We just grew 35 plants for about 25 patients, and we were able to give 1.5 pounds to each patient.
Yeah.
So that was, we'll have
It's a
some
great
videos
feeling,
of that in
isn't
the
it?
future.
Yeah, I have seen that.
We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi. I've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorders, and I've used pot without a prescription to handle this, and it's been the only thing that I've ever found to, you know, calm that down. And so I'm wondering if, you know, can I get a prescription for?
Well, you know, in the United States, only one state so far has allowed doctors to recommend cannabis for anxiety and depression, and that's the state of California. The California medical marijuana law says that physicians can recommend it for any condition that doctors feel it might help with. And it's clearly very helpful for anxiety, depression, PTSD, and a number of other psychological conditions. However, all the other states, aside from California, have enumerated a list of conditions that can be approved for medical marijuana, and none of the other states have listed anxiety and depression. There have been moves to get those conditions included here in Oregon and Washington and other states. The best thing I can say to do is to contact the health department and tell them that you want to see medical marijuana approved for anxiety and depression. It will help if you can get a doctor to back you up in that application to the health department's medical marijuana program. But that's the only way conditions can be added, is through that process. And I think the only condition in Oregon that's been added to date is rage associated with Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's patients can receive medical marijuana. Up in Washington State, they added hepatitis to the list of conditions that could be approved for medical marijuana. But so far, those are the only ones that have been approved in the Northwest.
And so do you have referrals to doctors that might be interested in backing that up, or like where would I?
Well, certainly. We have doctors who are interested in seeing the conditions expand to include those conditions. And we have doctors at our clinic in California that can approve California permits for anxiety and depression. But we don't have, and literally dozens of other doctors outside of our clinic that we can recommend as well throughout the state of California.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But currently, California is the only state that allows those conditions, and it's definitely very useful. A lot of the drugs they give people for depression and anxiety are incredibly debilitating.
They really are. And I'm an anxiety and depression patient myself. I never even really understood why I used cannabis or why it made me feel better. And then finally, when I grew up and figured it all out, oh, that's what it's all about. And it does work wonders for anxiety and depression.
It really does.
Yes, it does.
You know, the list of conditions that's in all the other states includes chronic pain. Chronic and severe pain is the largest single category out there. I would say over 60% of the patients who can use medical marijuana have chronic and severe pain. Also, chronic and severe nausea. That nausea can be associated with several conditions like gastrointestinal ailments like IBS or Crohn's disease or GERD. Then there's cancer, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, spastic disorders like multiple sclerosis, glaucoma. I think I covered them.
I think you got them all.
I think I got all of those. So those are the conditions that are legal throughout the western United States, including California. And California has others that qualify as well.
Isn't it anything that your doctor feels you qualify for in California?
Exactly.
And that's what we should be written into our law. But hopefully we'll pass the ACTA.
Right. When we pass the ACTA,
it's moot.
Anyone can grow their own without a license under our proposal. And what we've got to do is get about 120,000 signatures, 90,000 good signatures between July of this year, 2008, and July of 2010. Then it comes up for a vote in November of 2010.
Wow, we have our work cut out for us, but we're going to do it. I know we're going to do it because then we won't have to worry about anything. And remember when we were collecting signatures for Measure 67, which became the OMA, people said, but there's only an ounce. I don't even want to. What am I going to waste our time with an ounce? They're going to enjoin it. It's not going to pass. Remember?
I do.
It was just so amazing. And now here we are sitting with 24 ounces of usable marijuana. What's going on? You know?
Okay, yeah, and under the Oregon, your lobbying led to a large extent in the increase from 3 ounces that a patient could have to being 24 ounces as of 2005.
I think it's very exciting. I think we did a great job.
Yeah. We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi, I just wanted to get the number for the Department of Health so I can see if I can get that ball rolling for the anxiety and depression.
You want the number to DHF?
You know, I used to have it memorized and they changed it.
I have it. It's 971-673 1234.
Oh, I know that number. Thanks.
Yeah, that's it. Just call OMMP.
All right, thank you.
So what is that, 971?
Yeah, but they only take calls from 11 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, give them a call. Anybody can petition to have a condition added to it.
Right.
So, yeah, know your rights. Go in there and read the frequently asked questions.
Okay.
All right. Good luck.
They have a great website as well that's linked to from our site, and I know from Oregon Normal's site as well.
It sure is.
You get right to it from there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm on the advisory committee on medical marijuana, and it's kind of it's a hard position to be in because of the responsibility that also watching the budget and all the other things that are happening with the program constantly. We're under attack, so it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, that's a committee. Is it appointed by the governor?
It was appointed by the director of the Department of Human Services.
I see.
Bruce Goldberg. Yes, and the interesting part with that is there are 11 of us, and it's really, really quite a good, experience for me to sit there and listen to it, and we get to oversee the budget. But it is, it can be kind of, you feel like your hands are tied because you want to do so much more. We really want to bring, education to our cardholders because that's what it's all about. If they don't know the laws, then how will they know to...
And it's difficult to get your decisions enforced by DHS.
Well,
I know there was talk about producing a book there, a handbook for many years, and we went through it. And once it was approved, then they decided they weren't going to produce it. That was like a multi-year process. And I know it was very disappointing for you and other people.
Yes, I've been lobbying for that since 2000, I believe, and it's been a real struggle.
We have a video clip we're going to run here, and we'll be back in just a moment. So enjoy this, and we'll be taking more calls in a second.
Or at least its psychotropic properties, which had been hidden from people for centuries, during the expansion of their empires, which also introduced them to other cultural influences. The English rediscovered cannabis in India, and the French did the same in North Africa. When Bonaparte launched his Egyptian campaign, the soldiers brought back home many souvenirs, including hashish. The modern history of hashish in France goes back to Napoleon's Egyptian campaign. Bonaparte was almost assassinated by an Egyptian who had taken hashish. That's how our relation with cannabis started, because straight away Napoleon banned cannabis in Egypt. For a long time, there has been this theory in France. You can still hear it sometimes said, that the word assassin is derived etymologically from the word hashishin. But if you look closely at this theory, this is not a true derivation. Nevertheless, it has been used to discredit cannabis. What is interesting is that you can find the idea again behind the Clyding myth. The West has often made such mental contortions in order to prove the real danger of cannabis.
England has been using hemp as a strategic material for centuries. At the beginning of the 19th century, ropes and sails for ships were exclusively made from hemp, but 90% of this hemp was imported from Italy and Russia. The United Kingdom was seriously worried about maintaining its hemp supplies during the expansion of the Napoleonic Empire. King George III of England decided to increase the cultivation of hemp and to develop its production in the seaports along the south coast of Britain.
Now, Bridport is a most remarkable seaport. It has been making, growing, manufacturing hemp, flax, sailcloth, ropes, twines, nets of every conceivable description since time out of mind. And I use the phrase time out of mind because it was used in the charter by King John of 1213, where he wrote to the burgesses of Bridport and exhorted them night and day to make cables and ropes of every description. There were frequent wars with France, certainly from early medieval times, until, of course, Napoleonic Wars. And Bridport took part in that span of history.
In 1803, the British Navy organised a blockade against France. Napoleon counteracted by signing an agreement with the Tsar Alexander I. This contract was called the Tilsit Treaty, and it especially forbade any export of hemp to England and America, thereby depriving them both of the use of hemp towards their sailcloth, rope, and other hemp product used in the war effort. Despite Napoleon's protests, Alexander I allowed merchants to smuggle hemp to Britain. This is one of the reasons why Napoleon decided to invade Russia. But the severe early winter of 1812 forced him to withdraw his troops and led to the end of his empire.
In the early 19th century, in Europe, the mysterious East became the latest rage, as did cannabis smoking. The Oriental wave influenced styles of interior decoration, clothing, and travel abroad. To be in fashion, people smoked hashish with the traditional water pipe and discovered its potent effects on lovemaking. In Paris, the famous Assassin Club was located at Hotel Pimodon. Artists and writers came here to eat Dr. Joseph Moreau de Tours' famous jam, which incorporated hashish. Among them were Théophile Gautier, Eugène Delacroix, Charles Baudelaire, Alexandre Dumas, Gérard de Nerval. Queen Victoria also used hashish. She used tincture of cannabis, a popular method for alleviating period pains. She was also prescribed morphine or laudanum, another popular remedy for many complaints.
In Amsterdam, cannabis, which had been imported from the Dutch colonies of South Africa since 1660, was smoked in coffee shops, a tradition that has survived until present day.
At the end of the 19th century, Indian migrants brought cannabis into Mexico, where it was named marijuana, and then became the symbol of Pancho Villa's rebellion with the song La Cucaracha.
Mexican farmers on their side copied the Indian water.
All right, Mexican farmers.
Mexican farmers, and here I am. I got my Mexican farmer husband here, and we just love it, and we're very proud to have been the people that brought marijuana to this country. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
If you're out there and you have a question for us tonight on Friday, the 7th of March, 2008, you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. That film you were watching was an excerpt from The Magic Weed. That's a British production about the history of marijuana. It's The Magic Weed. You can get it out there. We had some other tape troubles. We were trying to run some other clips there, but that's the one we were able to run tonight.
Right.
It's a pretty good one. It's about an hour-long documentary. Covers it pretty well. So, Oregon Normal has the big event coming up on May 3rd. So you're going to have the square all day that day.
Yeah, we're going to have the square from 8 to 5. We are going to have music all day. We're going to have speakers. You're going to be speaking.
Yeah.
A lot of other great speakers. We're going to have just bands, Los Marihuanos, Chief Greenbuds coming from, I believe, Alabama or Arkansas. I'm not
That's a
even
long
sure.
way.
That's a long way just to come and sing for us, perform. He's
That's
like
great.
a country western
So
singer.
that's Pioneer Courthouse Square, Saturday, May the 3rd. Be there or be square.
And we march at noon. And here's the thing, though. There's no dogs, no drugs, no alcohol. And the important part is to remember that we want to go out there and we want to show them how many of us there are in numbers. So here's the deal. If you want to get high, stay home. Don't come. But if you want to show how many of us there are, if you want to stand up for your rights, come and march with us through the streets of Portland. We have a full police escort. We have Ma, the dancing cannabis dragon, and we've just got a really great event planned for you, so you're going to want to come out there.
You will. We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on our show.
Oh, we lost him. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's your chance to get through if you want. 503-288-4448. So...
And when we were on break, we got a great
comment.
Yeah,
That's right. Sylvia mentioned. And she's ready to say, hey, Sylvia. Hello. You were talking about how patients who have anxiety and depression can qualify for medical marijuana in Oregon and Washington currently because of the side effects of their medications.
Absolutely. Any patient... Any person who is having difficulty with headaches and nausea due to their medication or due to their physical and or emotional place in life can get that documented by a physician.
Right.
And that qualifies for medical marijuana, the chronic nausea and the chronic headaches that are associated with that disorder of having anxiety and depression.
Thanks for pointing that out, Sylvia. Camera 2.
Yes, that's great. It is so very true that there's so much damage done to our bodies by these prescription drugs. I was just mentioning that Oregon is rated 10th in the nation on drug abuse.
Prescription
and
drugs.
Prescription drugs.
Yeah.
The ones that they give you, they just want to give it to you free almost.
Well, it's like those commercials you see for them. You know, try the little purple pill, but once you've tried it, you can have this and that and that and that, and if you drop over dead, don't call us.
Yeah.
We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hey, Paul.
Howdy.
Hi.
I was wondering, is there any effort for other states to recognize each other's cards, medical cards?
There is a bill in the state of Hawaii right now that would allow anyone with a card from another state to be covered, have reciprocity, as they say, in the state of Hawaii. Currently, only the state of Montana allows other cardholders coverage in their state. So if you're covered in any other state, such as Oregon or Washington or California, you're covered in Montana too with your state card from your home state. However, that's the only state right now, and there is a move in the Hawaii legislature. A bill is in committee there right now that would allow other card holders from other states to be legal in the state of Hawaii.
So are we working on it for, like Seattle, or I should say Washington, California, and
I know that we've tried to get something like that through the legislature. I think it's got struck down.
It got struck down. It always does. We just have to keep on trying. We're not going to give up, though. I always have thought about, wouldn't it be great to have, because, we call them the free states, the states that have medical marijuana. Mm-hmm. And it's just almost all the West Coast, and now we're eating up most of we're hoping to go that way.
Yeah, we're moving into the hinterland.
Yeah. So, that would be a great law, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, it all makes sense. Yeah. Well,
thanks for that comment. It's really important that we try to do that in every state.
In terms of living in Oregon, I see the only problem in it being in Montana is that we have the state of Idaho in the way. It's just getting over Idaho, and you'll be all right.
But look at this lovely medible.
A medible. Now, at your Oregon normal class this past time, you were talking about making medibles. I think
we were. That's what our class was all about, the medibles.
So this is a crispy treat with chocolate, and it's made with pixie dust.
Yeah, I believe that has my name on it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. I can see it. You see that big M there?
The perks.
Right.
That's what I love. But this was probably made by that lovely volunteer Sylvia as well.
Yep, the one who was telling us about how
medible.
She is. She's
remember Chris Schiller? She makes some great zucchini bread.
Yeah.
With ganja butter. Oh my goodness gracious!
She's moved out in the far woods. It's hard for her to get to town anymore.
She's going to come on in and be a vendor at the Million Marijuana March as well.
All right.
We're going to have some great vendors, Herbage Design. We're trying to get Enviofuel there with the cars that are retrofitted with biodiesel. This guy is wonderful. He comes to the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards each year. Mm-hmm. And you guys are going to be there, THCF.
Oh, yeah, of course. We wouldn't miss it.
Of course. They're one of our big sponsors.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
There's our list of conditions that are covered by medical marijuana in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Hawaii, and California, but California has some other conditions. Chronic pain is the largest. Over 60% of patients have chronic pain, chronic and severe nausea, AIDS, glaucoma, gastrointestinal disorders like IBS and Crohn's disease and GERD, hepatitis C, cancer, spastic disorders like multiple sclerosis, and asthma qualifies as a spastic condition, as does Tourette's, seizure disorders like epilepsy. All of those qualify for medical marijuana, and if you are a loved one has one of them and you don't know how to approach your doctor, or your doctor won't help you do this, then we have dozens of doctors across the western United States that are standing by to help. We have a doctor referral line. If you need help locating a doctor for medical marijuana in Oregon, you want to call 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Up in Seattle, the number in Seattle is 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701. In Denver, the number in Denver is 303-403-9996. That's 303-403-9996. If you're in Southern California, the number in Riverside, California is 951-782-9898. That's 951-782-9898. If you're outside of these major metropolitan areas, but you need help in Colorado, Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Hawaii, call us at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. And you can get to all of our different websites through our portal. The portal site is hemp.org. You can watch dozens of our back television shows there on YouTube at youtube.com. And we have hundreds of videos back up on the internet now. So you can find those through our sites at hemp.org.
Good.
There's the plugs.
There's the plugs.
I have to put that plug in there. We have another caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on our show.
Hi, yeah. I had a question. My wife is pregnant. She's coming up to her second trimester. She's been having some bad nausea and, not feeling so hot. And we're both, pretty regular users. But obviously, she's stopped smoking. But I was wondering if if you use marijuana for baking, if that would have any side effects. Is there any research that's been done on any side effects of just, using marijuana in
That's
food?
a good point. Right now in the United States, marijuana is registered as a Schedule I narcotic. And as a Schedule I, the federal government says it has no medicinal uses. And since it is Schedule I, women of childbearing age cannot be tested with medical marijuana. However, there have been studies done by a nurse who runs the nursing program at the University of Iowa these days, Melanie Dreyer, on pregnancy and cannabis. And it's shown to have a positive correlation in terms of increased birth weight for babies when the mothers use medical marijuana.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't recommend smoking because you get carbon monoxide in there, and carbon monoxide is bad for hardening the arteries on a long-term basis and can have some other negative effects. But taking medibles or edible cannabis can be useful. However, if the baby is drug tested at the hospital without the parent's knowledge, they could call in the Child Services Department to come in and talk to the patient about that. And I have heard of mothers having to fight for custody of their children because their children tested positive for cannabis in hospital birthing rooms.
Now, is it legal for them to test without the parents' knowledge?
Yeah, they do it. Yeah, there's once you're in their facility, they can do that.
It's a really big risk for you to take.
It is.
That's what we're saying. Even though there are some studies that have been done, Jamaican studies, many studies, you can go to National Normal's website, normal.org, and there's a lot of research that's been done. But, just remember there's a big risk that you're taking when you do this.
Let me say that all three of my children were born at home. And all three of my children had a birth weight between 9.5 and 10 pounds. So there was no low birth weight there. They were all born in a pretty easily manner. And I know a lot of parents who've used medical marijuana, and I've never seen a negative consequence. The only negative consequence I know of is they've had to fight for custody of their children with the Child Services Department. And these folks in Child Services think they're doing something good when in fact they don't really realize the harm they're causing in intervening in cases of marijuana. I mean, I can see with other substances that you might want to have Child Services intervene. If the baby's born a heroin addict or a methamphetamine addict, I'd want to see Child Services in there helping. But I have read a quote in the Oregonian several years back where the Child Services worker was belittling a parent who said they had just used marijuana once, and as they were taking the custody of the child away from the parent.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, she obviously doesn't want to use it just for personal, fun use, but just
to help with the nausea.
Yeah, for morning sickness, for cramps, those kind of things. It was traditionally prescribed for that. If you go back to before 1930, cannabis was used for pregnancy, menstrual cramps, morning sickness, and various feminine ailments.
Right. Well, that was she uses it for menstrual cramps, all the time too, and that really helps as well.
It's really useful.
Yeah. Queen Victoria had a prescription for menstrual cramps.
As far as if she was to do this now and then not do it again until for another 6 months,
it shouldn't be a problem. It's going to be out of her system within 30 days before the birth, and so now I would say there's no chance that they're going to be drug testing.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for answering the question.
Thank you. It's a good point. It's something that's scary out there.
Yeah.
And it's a particular point that our opposition uses against us at times as well. Well, we're down to our last 2 minutes here. We want to remind our viewers that tomorrow, about 11:30, Oregon Normal has the Oregon Medical cardholder meeting there at 49th and Southeast Hawthorne at Mount Tabor Theater.
Yeah, it's 4811 Southeast Hawthorne. Doors open at 11 a.m. You must have ID, be a member of Oregon Normal, and have an OMMP card. And the doors close at noon.
So if you're not in by noon, you're not in.
Get there, and there's a long line. Bring chairs and dress appropriately for the weather. If you're not dressed and it's raining,
I want to thank you for coming on again, Madeline. Have to come back soon.
Much. I'll be back.
And I want to thank you viewers for watching. Thanks to all of our dozen crew members who make this thing happen. And tune in next week and help us restore hemp. And here's Mr. Tim Pate and Mr. John Cornett to provide musical ending.